Welcome to the You on the Camino de Santiago podcast. This podcast is for and about first-time pilgrims walking the pilgrimage routes in Spain, France, and Portugal. With your host, guide and longtime pilgrim, Nancy Reynolds of the Camino Experience. I have exciting news. This podcast is now available on YouTube. That means that more people will be finding it, and it also means that I may be venturing into the land of videos to add to my library of audio content. This is thanks to my longtime listener, Jarrett, who has offered to help me expand my video presence. No promises, but let's see how this unfolds. Hi, this is Nancy, and you can find me on YouTube by searching for You on the Camino. If you are tuning into this podcast for the first time, and if you are dreaming of walking the Camino de Santiago, I'd like to suggest you look for the very first episode of this podcast and start your journey there. That's because this podcast started out as an audio program of sorts, and the first season walks you through the major decisions you need to make in order to get your Camino on the calendar. Episode 1 first released on all major podcast players and apps in August 2022, and we are now far down the planning road at episode 106. In this episode, then, you will meet Colleen from New Zealand, who will be walking the Camino Francés with her husband. Colleen shares the common pilgrim concerns, how to find beds, and if there will be beds available when you need them, how to use trekking poles without doing a lot of flailing about, how to pronounce those tricky Spanish words for the cities and towns you'll be walking through. We talk about all those things and more in this episode. Before we meet Colleen, I want to circle back on something I shared in last week's episode when I was talking about how things are a bit crazy in the world right now, and that may have you feeling hesitant to get your Camino plans on the calendar. I shared how I've been struggling with this too, how to keep moving forward with my dreams and big goals when it feels like the ground is shifting beneath my feet. How do you say yes to your Camino dream when it feels like global forces are swirling in new and confusing ways? And I shared some brilliant advice from a trusted friend and minister. He said this: keep moving forward, keep moving toward what you want, and work toward being more of who you are. The day after that episode released, I got a call from my pilgrim friend, Chad, who you've met in 3 separate episodes as we followed 3 of his pilgrimages. Chad reminded me that the advice I'd received from my minister was an almost literal translation of one of the most shared phrases on the Camino. In Latin, the phrase is ultrea et sucea, and it's often translated simply as go further, ultrea, and go higher, sucea. What a wonderful reminder to keep the pilgrim spirit with me at all times. Thank you for that, Chad. This past week has been full and satisfying, as I've heard from a number of my listeners who took my challenge from last week to share this podcast on social media and to leave a 5-star rating or review wherever they listen to podcasts. Thank you to everyone who did that. Your support means the world to me, and it will help ensure I can continue to provide this free resource to the pilgrim community. The other thing that happened this week is that I welcomed another pilgrim into my September Camino Experience group. It reminded me once again that you are all real people, real pilgrims who are taking on a huge goal and often a long-held dream. When we go after our dreams, we open ourselves up to the serious, life-changing phenomena of serendipity and synchronicity. When we say yes to what our heart is calling us to, we shift the tectonic plates in our lives and make space for so much good stuff to come our way. In a world that currently seems so chaotic and uncertain, I think we need these inner shifts. I'm still writing my goals every day, morning and evening, because I trust that now is the time to do my best work and support you in reaching your Camino goals. If you're new to this podcast and you're wondering what I'm referring to, check out episodes 101 and 103 for the whole story on how to set goals you care about and how to ensure they come to life. And if you are tired of dreaming and are ready to make this happen, or if one of your goals is to start the Camino Francés in September this year, but you haven't really gotten moving on that goal, let's connect. I still have 3 spots left in my September Camino Experience group, and I would love to have those go to 3 of my podcast listeners. The best way for us to connect is by email or on my website. There's a link in the show notes where you can get the details about joining my September group and also my email address if you'd like to reach out directly. That email address is nancy@thecaminoexperience.com. Last thing, before we meet Colleen, I've just about finished all of the interviews for the next 3 months of the podcast, and I am so excited to bring you all these stories. You are going to get some new perspectives, both from pilgrims getting ready for their first pilgrimages and also from those who have already walked. I have 2 couples coming up who will share what it's like to plan and prepare and then walk the Camino with a spouse. I have several pilgrims who are getting ready for the Portuguese route, one who did the Inglés, and some who have made the big commitment to walk the entire Francés route. We tackle all kinds of topics and hear some heartfelt and inspiring stories from people from all over the U.S. and Australia as well, plus my guest today, Colleen from New Zealand. Speaking of Colleen, shall we go ahead and meet her? Here we go. Colleen, hi. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. Welcome.
Thanks. Hi, Nancy. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. You want to tell us where you're calling in from today?
Oh, okay. I live in a very small town in New Zealand. There's about 2,500 people here, or something around about that, near Wellington in the North Island.
Okay. I have a friend who is on a plane today to New Zealand. So
Oh,
yeah. I can't remember where he's going. He's doing some big, long bicycle adventure. But yeah, boy, you have such a beautiful country. So beautiful.
it is. But there's other places that are beautiful, different, beautiful.
Yes. I think we're always enchanted when we land someplace new that's different from where we come from. It's as if the beauty is magnified and suddenly we're in this whole new wonderful world.
You know, we feel like that when we come back to New Zealand and we drive over. There's this big hill to go over when we come back with native trees. And we go, wow, no wonder people like coming here.
Yeah, I just remember there were, I don't know, it seemed like hundreds of shades of green and it was just so lush and beautiful. Yeah. So much natural beauty. Anyway, we're here to talk about your Camino plans. Why don't we start where I always start, which is to put the pin in the map. Will you share with us, please, your Camino plans?
Sure. We're leaving New Zealand early April, but we're visiting family on the way, and we're flying to Lisbon to see friends, and then we're flying to Bilbao, where we've got friends, and we're so lucky. We've got friends there that are going to drive us to Saint Jean Pied de Port, which is really cool. And then we start off from there, finish, we've allowed about 40 days actually.
Okay. So about 40 days. And will you finish in Santiago or will you go all the way to the coast?
No, we'll finish in Santiago, but we could go for a bus ride or something down there. I have seen plenty of people do that.
Yes, definitely. And you can actually take a local bus. The company is called Monbus, Monbus, or you could find one of the tours that run daily from Santiago to the coast. That would give you a guide who would give you all kinds of history and information about it. So it depends on the experience you're after. Yeah, some good choices. Okay, so you're going to stop in Lisbon and you're going to stop in Bilbao where you have friends. Those are great places to have friends.
It is.
I'm finding myself feeling just a little jealous of friends in those places. Yeah, very good. Okay, and then you arrive in Saint Jean. How long will you spend in Saint Jean before you start walking?
Well, Nancy, you always recommend a couple of days or a couple of nights.
I
So we're going to
do.
say a couple of nights. But my husband likes working these things out, and he worked out how far we'd have to walk each day. And then I said to him, well, we're staying 2 nights here. And he goes, oh, well, that cuts it down.
Did you just have to shuffle? He had to shuffle the whole plan after that.
No, we don't really have that much of a plan. It's pretty
Okay.
vague.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So, what is it that has you walking the Camino? What's this trip about for you?
Well, it's a bit vague as well. I mean, we hear about people, having sort of very set ideas and how they've been waiting to do it for a long time and dreaming about it. But I don't know. I saw some program on TV years ago. I think it was an American girl, and she walked the Appalachian Trail. And I thought, wow, it'd be quite cool to do that. And then I saw that they were carrying backpacks, and I couldn't understand why she was so depressed. And I sort of like that sounded. Then we saw the Walk in the Woods movie, but then suddenly one of Jim's cousins had just finished walking it in May last year. And we saw that. And then we visited a cousin of mine who was 80, and we were talking to him about it. And he said, oh, I've done it 3 times.
Oh my gosh. And he's 80?
Yeah, yeah. And so my husband's Jim said, oh, I think I'd quite like to do that. And I thought, oh, good, because I was thinking it'd be a really good idea.
Well, and compared to the Appalachian Trail, this is quite a different experience.
Yes, I can see that. That's why it was a bit more appealing.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. So what are you expecting? What kind of experience are you after?
Well, I kind of really like enjoying atmosphere
Mm,
rather than having to do something by a certain time, really. And because my husband has a lung condition, he can't walk over these big hills and things. So we will go by vehicle, taxi, bus, train, whatever that we hear about, go around the big hills,
okay.
and it doesn't matter to me what people think true pilgrims are. I couldn't care less about that. It's just we actually want to come out of this experience still alive. And so we want to do it sort of sensibly for us and just enjoy it. Mm.
Yeah, that's a good goal to come out of it alive. I can
Yes.
totally stand behind you on that one. So for your first day out of Saint-Jean-Pied-du-Port, what's your plan? Because that's quite a large mountain.
Yes, well, we definitely won't be going over the Pyrenees. We'll
Okay.
definitely go the Val Carlos way.
Okay.
Not that we know that much about it, but um, I know Jim studied the map a wee bit and said, well, we could go around to, I don't know, what the Val Carlos even, and then get a ride over to around to Roncesvalles, possibly.
Yeah.
And we're going to stay in Bouget or wherever that name is.
The Spanish kind of help us out. They pronounce every single letter except the letter H. So it's pronounced Burguete.
Oh, Bouguette.
Burguete.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I've decided I will look in the next month. I'll look into a bit of the pronunciation.
Have you found the episode of this podcast where Maria Seco and she's from Spanish for the Camino, we do the pronunciation of the place names along the Camino Francés? I think that was in season 2. That's a great episode to just actually learn the pronunciation on things you actually will have to use on the Camino so you can find your way along the trail. So going back to the Valcarlos route, I love that plan, especially with Jim's needs, because the walk from Saint Jean to Valcarlos is relatively rolly rather than up and down. So it's not too strenuous in that regard. But once you leave Valcarlos, after maybe 6 to 8 kilometers, you've got to go over those Pyrenees. So it's incredibly challenging. And it actually surprises a lot of people. They think, oh no, we're taking the low road. Oh, yeah, but you still have to go over the Pyrenees. So I think that's a really wise choice.
Oh, yeah, we think so.
Yeah. Will you be carrying backpacks or will you choose to use the luggage transport services?
At the moment, we're kind of planning to carry our backpacks.
Okay.
We just decided that we're going to have to probably get a sleeping bag,
Okay.
which is fine. But then, because we do want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so, if it gets a bit too heavy, because I've had a lot of trouble finding a decent backpack anyway. So,
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, we're planning to.
Okay. Very good. All right. So you're looking for the atmosphere.
Hmm.
Would you say more about that? What does that mean? And how will you know when you find it?
Oh, I just soak it up. I can go outside and, stand under the trees and look up through the leaves. That's really nice. But I
Yeah.
also do markets and things. And we have a market here that has, I don't know, 20,000 people go to it. And
Oh,
I love all of that as well. I mean,
okay.
I like crowds too, but I do like the quiet as well.
Okay. I remember in when you first sent the interest form to be on the podcast, you said you rather like walking outside in bad weather. Okay, you got to tell us about that.
Ah, well, we live in a very, very windy place.
Uh-huh.
And so you do have to be careful on windy days because trampolines go flying through the air. So if they haven't nailed them down, yeah. But, occasionally you have a little sprinkling of snow, not very often.
Okay.
And so I'd go, oh, it's starting to snow. I better grab my umbrella and go out for a walk. Actually, I broke my wrist a couple of years ago and I couldn't do anything much. And it was in the middle of winter. So I used to go walking nearly every day in the rain.
Mm,
So I do enjoy that. But as I said, I'm not quite sure how I'll feel day after day at that time of the year if it's raining.
uh-huh.
But we'll see.
Yeah, that's the catch. If it's a day or
Mm,
two or an hour or two, that's one
yes.
experience. Yeah, but if it's relentless rain or relentless snow, that can be a little bit more challenging. Yeah, early April can be fickle for sure.
Could we even get snow in early April?
You could get snow into May in the higher elevation. So that would
Oh,
be up,
wow.
yeah, up in the Pyrenees, as well as there are two mountain ranges farther down on the Frances. There's the one that goes where the Cross of Iron is. So it's after
Yes.
Astorga and it goes up to Rabanal del Camino and then Fonte Badon and then the Cross and then Manjarin and down. That one can get snow, less likely that one. And then the mountain going up to Osabrero, which is the final mountain pass of the Frances. Yeah, you could. It's not as common as say in March or April, but yeah, into May you could. Yeah, part of the adventure, huh?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, very good. All right. So walking together, how does that look? Does that look like you two walking side by side? Does that look like I'll see you at the next town? What's
Oh,
what's this going to be like for you two?
well, that'll be really interesting because I walk about 1K faster than he does.
Okay.
When we were without backpacks and poles and things, I was doing nearly 5 or whatever, and he was doing like 4.
Okay.
But we don't even practice together. We just go wherever we want to go around town, up the hills and around the streets and down other roads. But we do meet up occasionally. So we'll just work it out. We're pretty independent people. So, I usually check on him to see where he is to make sure he's still, he's fine, but I
Yeah.
still like to do that.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. You don't want to sit for too many hours wondering if he's coming around the bend.
Yeah, well, he always does though. So I shouldn't be worried about it at all.
And you've probably heard you're never actually alone on the Camino Frances. There are often so many people on the trail that there's usually
Yes.
someone in front of you or someone behind you, if not someone right with you.
You know that saying, they're always saying things like the Camino will provide. And I thought, well, it certainly won't be providing us with a younger body and stronger muscles. So we just need to get in some practice.
Well, here's the rub with the statement the Camino provides. You don't get to order.
No,
There's no menu where you check off, I'd like to knock off 20 pounds. Let me knock off 20 years. Let me, meet this wonderful person and fall in love. It gives you what it gives you.
Exactly.
Our task is to accept it graciously and receive it. Yeah. Yeah, the Camino provides. That's we could talk about that for quite a while, I think. Yeah. All right. So when you think about this entire journey, is there anything you're concerned about?
The other day, I was sort of a bit, I don't know, anxious about all this talk about nowhere to stay or anything, but then I go and read something else. I've listened to all your podcasts, I've listened to some of them more than once. And, you're always going to find somewhere. It's not like you're going to have to sleep on the street. I mean, you can get a taxi and go to the next town or somewhere. And then I just read recently somebody just saying, oh, well, you just ask where you walked into and they'll probably be able to tell you where to go.
Yeah. Yeah. In some of the villages, the property owners are all connected on WhatsApp
Yes.
and they'll let each other know, hey, I still have one room, I still have some beds, or the person you're talking to will send them a message. Hey, I've got 2 people. Can I send them to you? So yeah,
Yes.
yeah. There's a nice community among the pilgrims, but also among the people who serve the pilgrims.
Right. Although I did find it really difficult. I actually, just trying to find somewhere to stay, like in Zuberi. That's why
Mhm,
we're going to the next place.
mhm.
But then, I know that not all those things are online, like
Yeah,
booking.com and things like that. I do know that. But you
yeah.
still want the security of at least, that's the only thing we've got booked so far. Yeah, I
Okay.
kind of need a security of knowing that at least we've done a couple of things.
It's nice to have it booked through Pamplona, I find, just so, and
Yes.
just until you get your legs under you and just until you've got the rhythm of the day and the system down and you know how everything is working. Zubiri is a sticking point, though. A lot of people refer to it
Yes.
as a bottleneck because it is such a logical stage after you go over the Pyrenees and you stay in Roncesvalles, then you go to Zubiri, then you go to Pamplona. So yeah, it can get backed up in Zubiri. And if it's not pre-booked, oftentimes in busy times, it will sell out by say 1 in the afternoon and there won't be any beds left. But if you're planning to stay in the albergues, there are albergues that don't take reservations. For example, the municipal albergue doesn't take reservations. And so if you get there early enough, you can grab a couple beds at that one. And there are lots of pensions and guest houses in Dubiri as well. And so there are lots of choices. Fortunately, it's grown up a lot in the last 10 years because there has been such a need for places for pilgrims to stay.
Well, I'm not looking on the wrong site then for Zuberi because when I look it up on booking.com or even on Google, everything comes up as booked out.
Okay. The time that you're going to be there in early April, I wouldn't give up. I would go directly to the websites of the properties in Dubiri. So, for example, my favorite place in Dubiri is called El Palo de Avellano. It's Spanish for the hazel stick. And they have a really beautiful albergue with shared dorm rooms as well as 2 private double rooms. And they include breakfast and they serve, I think, the best dinner in town. And so that's my go-to place. That's where my groups stay.
Okay, so that's in Zuberi.
Yes, yes. El
Okay.
Palo de Avellano. So I would go right to their website. They've got an easy to use booking engine right on there.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you.
There's another one in Zubiri called, I don't know if it starts with Casa or Albergue Susea. And that one actually books up very fast. It's got an incredible reputation. People rave about her hospitality as well. Apollo's just bigger. And so there are more beds, better chance of getting a spot there.
Okay. And so that's one you can book in advance then.
Both of those can.
Ah,
Yeah, both of those you
okay.
can. The trick is what I do is find it on Google Maps or find it in one of the apps and then click through to their website rather than go through booking.com because a lot of times they don't put more than a couple beds or a room on booking, but they've got more inventory that they just don't put on there. Some places even will have a listing on booking and show that they're completely sold out even though they have beds, but they put them there just for recognition. So people go, oh, there's another place there. Let me look that up.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
booking takes a pretty hefty percentage. Last I heard, they took something like 15 to 20%. So for a small business, it really hits the revenue.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite a lot. Okay, so we've got lots to look forward to. Any challenges with the planning process for you?
Apart from that, no. I mean, unless you call, well, actually, part of the planning, I guess, was the backpacks. That was a challenge. I've got a short body, long legs.
Oh, okay.
I'm about 5'5", and I've ended up with a backpack that you can adjust the back on it. But
Okay.
I think it ended up being like 45 litres
Okay.
because that was the one that could be adjusted.
Mm.
And you have to get your drink out, but it doesn't matter because I've thought of all of these ideas to adapt it.
Oh, tell us. Okay, what are you going to do to adapt it?
Well, you can get those bottle things now with a lid that just you take the cap off your bottle and put a lid on it with a straw in it, a long
Yes.
straw. So I thought,
Yeah.
well, that'd be quite good if I can find one of those in New Zealand.
Yeah, sure.
And yes, I thought I did make something that hangs on the front or can attach to the front so that it's. But my backpack still is a bit too leany back. It doesn't come forward enough, and I've got the
Uh-huh.
straps and everything as far as I can. And if I
Okay.
pull it any tighter across here, I'll be cutting my neck off. So I'm going to have to attach something myself so that I can just pull it a bit further forward. But I'll get there.
Yeah, that's a great example of getting it as close as you can and then
Mm,
bringing it the rest of the way with adjustments yourself. That's really a good strategy, especially if you're hard to fit.
yes.
Yeah, 45 liters will probably be one of the bigger backpacks on the trail, but I'm in the camp that says it's okay. Don't fill it, but it's
No.
okay to have more room. And in fact, what I've observed is some of the smaller backpacks become a little unwieldy because you have to fill them so tight. And then if you're not small, I'm not small, the straps sometimes become too tight. They're not long enough to allow room to maneuver when the pack is full. So I'm a big fan of getting a pack that fits you correctly.
Yes. Well, I'm still sort of working on that.
Any other gear challenges that you've come up against?
I'm going to have to adapt my sticks because I have a bit of arthritis in my hands.
Ah,
And so the grip on the sticks is not really big enough. I need to have it a little bit bigger. So I'm
okay.
going to have to figure out something to wrap around the top of the pole so that
Ah,
so that I can actually be gripping onto it properly.
gotcha. Gotcha. Have you used the straps on your poles?
Well, yes, but I should look up exactly how to use it. I know you've got the hints on there on your podcast about who to listen to.
I'll put this in the show notes, the link to the video for how to adjust the straps.
Yes.
And the reason I will do that, I'm a big fan of using the trekking pole straps to their best benefit. So if you use the straps correctly, then you just need a guiding touch to hold the poles because your strap is what's holding them
Ah,
to you. So you don't even need to grip the poles. You let the straps do the work with your hand. Now, with arthritis, it definitely would be worth test driving that to make sure that the strap is comfortable when used that way. So I'll make sure that's in the show notes. I'll send it to you before we get too far here.
I definitely need to look that up because we've got this hill that's about 140 meters behind us. We've actually got much bigger hills, about 500 meters, but I go up this hill every day and I put the poles right out in front of me. And in the end, I thought, God, that is really hard work trying to do that. Obviously, I'm not using them correctly
Mm.
because I'm using them like digging them into the ground almost and
Uh-uh.
dragging myself up. And
No.
I know. See, I definitely need to go back and do more research.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely watch this video. The trick is when you're going uphill, your poles are behind you, pushing you up, not pulling you up in front of you. When you go downhill, you lengthen them and put them out in front of you, and then they slow you down. Yeah, definitely a good trick there. And then when you are on flat surfaces, I keep my poles the same height for flat and uphill. The only purpose of poles on flat surfaces is really balance so that I have that rhythm and I get into the rhythm. And then if I start to slip or my foot twist, I've got a pole to put down quickly and not fall.
that's really good advice, because sometimes just recently I've been picking up the poles and just walking along, without putting them on the ground.
Mhm.
But then that makes sense. You only need a leaf or something to slip on.
That's right. That's right. Or a tiny rock that you step on
Yeah.
wrong and hits your heel and twist an ankle. Yeah. And so I like to avoid those types of things.
Age has nothing to do with that either.
It doesn't have anything to do with it. Yeah. And the Camino is filled with adventure and potential rocks to slip on and leaves to slip on. Yeah. So a certain amount of mindfulness goes a long way. Yeah. All right. So you mentioned when you sent in your request to be on the podcast that you were wondering if people around town think you might have a screw loose,
Oh,
which I
yes.
really loved. So are you getting some fun reactions from people as you get ready for this?
Well, we meet just as many interesting people walking around town as I'm sure we probably will on the Camino walk. I walked past the school yesterday and the school kids started waving to me. I thought, wow.
Okay, you're the local celebrity here.
That depends on the time of day you walk as well. Like, we don't see quite so many if we leave earlier in the morning, but um, in the afternoon, because we live right by a railway station as well.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So if we go later in the day, we actually meet a lot more people having gotten home from work, going
Okay.
for walks as well. But yes, meet a lot of dogs too.
Yeah. And do you talk to people about what you're getting ready for?
Well, they usually ask us because it's a bit odd walking around the town with a backpack on. I go into the local supermarket on the way past in the morning to get a particular drink. So,
Uh-huh.
but I already know them, so they already know I'm all there. It's okay.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, family and friends, how are they? Supportive or do they think you're crazy?
Well, they don't actually tell us they think we're crazy. I don't know what they're actually thinking, but our family, they're pretty much used to us going and doing our own thing.
Great. All right. Well, are there any questions that I can answer for you?
I don't know. You do such a fantastic job with your podcast.
Mm.
For people going the first time, if they actually do. I did find though that audio on Audible, I couldn't find show notes, but on Spotify, I discovered that I could. So now I can go. I've only just recently discovered that. So I'll go into Spotify too and go back through yours and the notes that you do,
Great.
because you've got most of everything on there.
Yeah. And I don't know why show notes are not available on Audible. It's a great mystery.
The one other thing is that I don't eat gluten and dairy.
Ah, okay.
And that, for me, to start with, I was thinking, oh, what am I going to eat? But I mean, I've listened to a lot of people. Actually, we watch heaps of YouTubes too. Just take out of it what you need and leave the
Yeah.
rest.
Yeah, that's the rule.
Yeah, I see there are lots of supermarkets. It's not like we can't go and get food. So,
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And especially if you're staying in the albergues, very often you'll have access to a kitchen. So you can go get some provisions and prepare a meal. You've probably heard my tip that before you go shopping, check the kitchen and see how well equipped it is and
yes,
see if there's anything that's been left behind from the people before. You could find a bag of rice, and that's the basis of your meal.
yes.
Gluten-free rice, hopefully. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Gluten-free is a challenge on the Camino, if only because bread is the default. Bread is
Yes.
in everything, on every table, with every meal. And it just simply takes some attention to get something different. Yeah. And I've also heard that some people who have trouble with gluten, especially in the US, go to Europe and don't have trouble with it because of the way the food is produced and the lack of GMOs. So I'm not sure what you have in New Zealand. You know better than anyone what you can and can't eat.
When we were in France last time, I hadn't had gluten for ages, and I did have some French bread, and I thought, wow, I actually thought it was gluten free to start with, but it wasn't. I'll be okay as long as I don't have too much.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and there certainly are ways around it. But it's
Mm,
good to know that if you get stuck and there's nothing else available or you're extra hungry and you can just grab something, you'll be okay. That's good to know. Dairy is also a challenge. There's lots of cheese and yogurt everywhere.
Yes.
And ice cream. I personally don't know how someone would live without ice cream, but
Oh,
yeah.
I did hear you mention one time something about weight as well. And I read Mr. Briley's book. He puts you better off to have it off before you go and carry it with you.
I think so. I think that's a really good goal. Yeah. I mean, so what you do is you lose the weight, and then let's say you lose 5 kilos, take 5 kilos and put it into your backpack and see how happy you are to carry that around. Not so
Yes.
much.
Well, so far I have lost about 4 or 5 kilos. So I was thinking, oh, that's
Wonderful.
really good. That's really
That's
good.
excellent. Yes. Yeah. The less weight you can have on your feet, the better. Because your feet are, for me, that's what hurts is my feet.
Mm,
Every
mm,
single day, my feet hurt. And
yeah.
I know the less I weigh, the less they hurt. So that's why I'm on this. I've got a very, very clear goal for this year to drop some weight. So,
Well, fresh fruit and vegetables are the best anyway. I mean, I know people feel they're missing out with things, but
yeah,
it's just the proper foods.
that's right. Yeah. Find whole foods and you're going to be in good shape. Yeah.
And actually, we're doing about 11 to 12 K at the moment. So we haven't got up to the 20 or 25 yet, but
You've got a little bit of time left to get up there, a few more weeks. Yeah. One of the things I tell my groups when they're preparing for the Camino is you don't necessarily have to do a lot of long walks, but make sure that at least once you hit your high distance.
oh, yes.
Psychologically, to know you can hit a 20, 25, or 30-kilometer day will take you a long way on the Camino.
I think one of the things that we do when we're training too, which I noticed that I went back and listened to yours, was at the moment when I go out and do a walk, I just go out before breakfast, take a bottle of water, do 12K, and then come home.
Just like that.
But we're not, oh no, not quite. but when,
You
but
said that
when,
so casually.
but when, like I'm sure that if we actually, like Jim said, well, we should it's time we started practicing stopping for, 20 minutes and then doing another 5K and another
Yes.
5K.
Yes. Well, the goal is different. When you do a training hike,
Yes,
your goal is to finish the walk and go home and
it
get on to
is.
whatever's next. When you're on the Camino, the goal is to be on the Camino and on the trail and enjoy it and meet people, take photos, stop for coffee. Yeah.
Yes,
I would say it's a different rhythm to the day.
yes, yes.
Oh, you'll find it though. You'll find your rhythm out there for sure. Ah.
We're actually taking a 10-day holiday afterwards
Mm.
so that we can chill out. We're going to go to Sicily for 10 days.
What a great idea.
I know we're lucky, aren't we? Because I said, well,
Yeah.
I don't want to visit people straight away. I want to keep the feeling,
Yeah.
keep all of that, for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah. Or minimally have the choice to
Mm,
either keep it and stay in silence or stay in the rhythm or interact with people. But yeah, to have that choice is a wonderful way to end your Camino.
mm.
Yeah. And Sicily, that can't be bad, right?
Well, I haven't been there, but it doesn't sound too bad to me.
I bet it's going to be wonderful. That's a great, great thing. Well, you're coming from quite far away. How long will it take you to get from New Zealand to Europe?
Oh, I don't know. It's like, oh, it's hours.
It's long, right?
I know the last one is from Dubai and it's like 8 hours or something from Dubai to Lisbon. Is it something like that? And it's a hang of a lot longer than that going from Brisbane to Dubai.
Yeah.
There's no point in dwelling
No
on
point in
that.
knowing, no point in knowing the facts in this situation. Get on the plane, get off, get on, get off, get off. Done.
Yes, yes.
Okay, then I won't tell you what other people have told me from New Zealand and Australia how long it takes. You're going to get there.
We know how long it takes. A long time.
It's a long time. Oh my gosh, bring snacks because you're going to need them.
Yes, yes,
Need something to
definitely.
read. Oh my gosh. Well, any other questions I can answer for you?
Jim did just say to me, which hills am I not going to be able to go over?
Hmm.
But he kind of has a good idea just from looking at the elevations and things like that.
Yeah, that's what you need is the elevation charts to see. Yeah, because even in the middle, they sneak in a couple of hills, just phew, up straight. Yeah. So it depends on not just the elevation gain, but for how long does the gain take? So, for example, going over the Pyrenees, there's an 8 kilometer stretch that's incredibly steep going up. In the middle of the Meseta, there's a very steep stretch, but it only lasts for a kilometer or two. So it's those kind of equations that he'll have to work out for himself.
The Meseta is the one that's always appealed to me, actually. I
Yeah.
think it looks amazing. And any time of the year, the pictures that we've seen it, I know you said it's full flowery in the spring,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah. It's
like the
beautiful.
dryness in the autumn as well.
Yeah. Well, maybe your second Camino will be in September.
Or maybe.
All right. Well, Colleen, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I love hearing your plans. I love your enthusiasm about what you've got coming up. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right. I wish you a beautiful journey.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.